the Commanders Coalition. I'm your host, Alex.
I'm your host, Jacob.
And today, we're going to be introducing a new series, Does It Do?
So, in this video series, we're going to be taking a topic or cards, and we're going to be analyzing how they do something, and then we're going to decide if it counts as that or if it doesn't. So, for example, today we are talking about ramp, and specifically, is a card ramp, depending on what it does, what are the restrictions, and everything. So, for example, let's take the card Ancient Tomb. So, Ancient Tomb is a land that has tap, add 2 colorless to your mana pool, you take 2 damage.
Yep.
So, it's good in that it gives you 2 mana when normal land gives you 1. So I'd call it ramp.
And I would call it ramp as well. So we're just going to go through each card on our list. And some of them might be just a group of cards, a generic group of cards. But we're going to be analyzing and we're going to talk about if it's ramp. And if it's ramp, we'll say it's ramp. If it's not, we won't. And we'll give our opinions on it. All right. First card. I guess I'll just start and you can go. Okay, Expedition Map. It's a 1 colorless artifact. It says 2, tap, sacrifice Expedition Map, search your library for a land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. So you'd be able to, if you were to, we were going to start with lands.
We were. Oh, well,
that's fine. So basically, if you have, like Ancient Tomb we talked about just a second ago, if you search for that, you'll get more mana than just one mana, like in your hand. You'll get 2 instead because of Ancient Tomb. So, anything elaborate or
is it ramp? I don't know if I'd call it quite ramp. I feel like Ancient Tomb I'd say is ramp, but this you have to pay 3 mana for specifically Ancient Tomb, which after 2 colorless, so it's hard to say.
I would say it is not.
The next card that's very similar is Sylvan Scrying. Same thing. This one, again, I wouldn't say it's ramp. Sylvan Scrying says search library for a land card, reveal it, put it in your hand. So it's 2 mana instead of the 3 total for Expedition Map. It does the same thing, gets a land. I wouldn't call it ramp because,
Next is Nyla's Intervention. It's X and then green. Choose 1. Search your library for up to X land cards. Reveal them, put them in your hand, and shuffle your library. Or Nyla's Intervention deals twice X damage to each creature with flag. So it's like Sylvan Scrying, but you can do it multiple times.
I'd say it's not.
I wouldn't say it's ramp either. None of these are really necessarily ramp.
Yeah. Teleria West. This is a pet card of mine. It is a land that enters battlefield tapped, has tap, add blue, and transmute 1 colorless, 2 blue. So that says discard this card, search the deck for a card with equal converted mana cost, so 0. Reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. You can only do that as a sorcery. So I'd say this is ramp specifically because it can get you Mana Crypt.
Yep.
It
could also get you Ancient Tomb too.
It can, but I guess if at that point it's at that point, it's just Sylvan Scrying. So I'd say because you can get Mana Crypt, we can call it ramped if you have it.
So that was our first section. We have a second section, and this section is going to be mana doublers that will double all of your mana, like tap for mana.
Yep.
And we should probably elaborate that we had to cut a lot of the cards from this list because
there's a lot of
the whole list because we put so many we didn't realize how long a video would get. So we're specifically going to talk about Mirari's Wake.
Yep.
And Mirari's Wake is a 3 colorless, 1 green, 1 white for an enchantment, and it says creatures you control get +1/+1, and it says whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any type that land produced. So it doubles all of your mana. Some other ones that do this are like Zendikar Resurgent, Nissu Shakes the World, Vorn Klex, Kinnan, Winter's Night, Keeper of Progenitus, Vernal Bloom, and Zerta Ancient. And all of those do the same type of thing. They double all of your mana. I'm not going to go into any of those because it just takes
I'd say that lands like this are ramp. They're depending on they can be too expensive, but Mirari's Wake specifically 5 mana. I'd say it's ramp.
I'd say it's ramp as well. So next section. So that was like the mana doubler section. So this one is similar. And it's mana doublers, but only for a single land. So a lot of these would be like enchantments that you put on lands.
Wait, okay. Kind of took out the list. I had this one. Okay, so there's certain enchantments that can enchant a land. Say that land taps for an additional, and I'd say it's ramp. Obviously, because it can go on land. It's not like it's going to get blown up anytime soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's all we should say about.
Yeah.
That,
so
probably.
There's a ton of them, but basically just like enchantments that you enchant a land and then it taps for double or taps for an additional.
Yep. So one that then there's mana doublers that tap everyone's mana for double.
That's true.
So I would say those aren't ramp. Like, for example, Mana Flare. 2 colorless, 1 red. Whenever a land is tapped for mana, it produces 1 additional mana of the same type.
So everyone would get
Everyone. So I'd say it's not ramp because it doesn't give you a mana advantage. Other people get just as much mana as you have.
Yeah. Ramp should be you're ahead of other people, and
Yep.
this doesn't get you ahead.
Yeah, and I think we might talk about that more later. But okay.
Yeah.
So going on to, are we talking lands next?
So
We already did Ancient Tomb. So next couple lands are kind of where they're lands that can get you more lands. So for example is Blighted Woodland. It's a land that has tap, add colorless, and then 3 colorless, green, tap, sacrifice Blighted Woodland, search the library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. It's a land. It can get you 2 lands if you pay 5 mana total for it.
Yeah.
I guess it is ramp, but it's not very good ramp.
No.
I have decks that want it. If you're a landfall deck, you'd want it, but
I would
other
say
than
it's
that,
ramp.
Yeah.
Next, terrain generator. So this is similar. It's a land. It says tap, add 1 colorless to your mana pool, and it says 2 tap. You may put a basic land card from your hand to the battlefield tap. So it's got to be basic. It's similar to Blighted Woodland, but it doesn't sacrifice, and you don't search your library. You just put one on the battlefield.
Takes a card from your hand.
Yep.
It is ramp, but I'm not a huge fan of it.
I would say it's ramp. I'd say it's really only worth running in like a landfall
Yeah,
type
if you're,
deck.
and also you want to be pretty much monocolor because it needs to be a basic land.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Next,
section are lands that kind of tap for a lot of mana. So those are lands like Cabal Coffers, Gaia's Cradle, Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx. So starting with Cabal Coffers, Cabal Coffers says 2 colorless tap, add black for each swamp you control. So that can really be like 3 mana, add like 8.
if
pretty
you have
easily.
like Urborg, for example, Tomb of Yawgmoth, it makes all your lands swamps. So
Is this ramp? Probably. It's like a ritual effect, but because it's a land, you use it every turn.
it does not tap for mana by itself, though.
That is true. So yeah, I'd say it's probably ramp.
Okay,
Okay.
next, me too.
Gaia's Cradle. Gaia's Cradle, we've talked about it before, has tap, add green to mana pool for each creature you control. It's a land. I'd say it's ramp because it's an interesting one. It is ramp because it gives you a lot of mana. So
Yeah, it's taps for each creature. You might not have any creatures out, but for the most part, you're probably gonna have more than 2.
Yeah.
So I would
2 or more.
also count as ramp.
Yeah.
So next is Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx. It's tap, add 1 colorless to your mana pool. It also has 2 tap, choose a color, add 1 mana of any, add to your mana pool an amount of mana that is color equal to devotion to that color. So you tap 2, tap, and then you pick a color, and then however much devotion you have to that color, you add mana to your mana pool for it. So if you're running, if you have a lot of creatures and stuff, permanents that have mana pips, could be
Good.
ramp. I'm gonna say it's not though.
I'd say it's not ramp because okay, I guess technically it is ramp, but
I guess
you need to get more than 3, and that really will only happen in a 2 color deck, maybe. Probably only a 1 color deck.
Yeah,
So
I would say that
I'd say
it's.
yeah. I mean, Cabal Coffers is better.
So this next section is going to be spells that will have basically like an additional cost. So you have to like destroy something, you have to sacrifice something, whether that be someone else's stuff or yours. So we'll just get into
Okay.
it. So first is
Crop Rotations. Crop Rotation is a 1 green for an instant, has an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a land, search your library for a land card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So it's like Sylvan Scrying and Expedition Map and all those because it gets you a land, and I guess if you get Ancient Tomb, it's technically ramp, but even then you're paying, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's very good ramp.
something notable about this card though is that let's say you have a green forest, you tap a green forest to play this, you could sacrifice that green forest and search for Ancient Tomb, and then you
It
can
does.
and then
So-
you can tap that for 2.
Yeah.
So I would say it is a ramp, and that's only because of that sheer fact that you can sacrifice that land that you use to play it.
It also goes into play, so like landfall decks or other things, or decks that can play stuff from graveyards. I'd say it's ramp.
Next is Path to Exile. So this is 1 white instant, exile target creature. Its controller may search the library for base land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Shuffle their library. So basically, we're gonna say that it could be ramp by just being able to, if you exile a creature you control, let's say you have a token, you exile that, you search your library for base land, put it on the battlefield tapped. So in that case, it could be ramp. But
Really weird ramp.
it's weird ramp, but you can also use it. Obviously, you can use it as removal as well. So
Similar card, Settle the Wreckage, is a 4 mana instant which says exile all attacking creatures target player controls. That player may search his or her library for that many basic land cards. Put those cards onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle his or her library. So
same thing.
it's like Swords to Plowshares in the sense that you're sacrificing. You could choose to sacrifice creatures 4 lands. I wouldn't say Path to Exile and Set of the Wreckage are very good ramp cards.
They can be ramp, and with this Does It Do episode, it's a little weird because technically they are ramp because you can ramp yourself because you're not you're not like getting rid of any lands to get these, but so we'll say it is ramp. It's just ramp? It's very weird
it's ramp,
and it's not. Yeah.
If you did this, people would look at you weird.
You're not going to use these mainly for ramp.
Yeah. At least you shouldn't.
No.
Utopia Vow is kind of like Swords to Plowshares in the sense that it is a 1 green, 1 colorless for enchant creature. Enchanted creature can't attack or block.
Yep.
Enchanted creature has tap, add 1 mana of any color.
So it turns off a creature and makes it so it becomes a mana dork, basically.
For some creatures, I mean, making it a mana dork, making it so it can't attack or block really doesn't matter. I mean, like, if you have a Volo deck, does Volo really care if he can attack?
Right.
No. I mean, I guess we could also talk about Imprisoned on the Moon, but...
That's true.
That just... I mean, it can... yes, it is ramp, because it can ramp.
Yep.
So, it's kind of jank ramp.
So, Utopia Vow, would you say that's ramp?
Yeah. I'd say it's ramp, yeah.
Okay.
It's conditional ramp.
Okay, next is New Frontiers.
Wait, this is the next section.
Is this next section? Okay, so this new next section is basically group hug kind of ramp. So it's everyone ramps, or everyone can ramp, depending if they choose to. So, for example, the first one is New Frontiers. It's X and a green, and it says each player may search the library for up to X basic land cards and put them in the blade tapped. Then each player who searches, then they all shuffle their libraries. So. Basically everyone will ramp at the same time. I would say it's not ramp because everyone you're not ahead of anybody. Everyone is ramping.
Okay. Card that's similar is Collective Voyage. It's 1 green and then has Join Forces. Starting with you, each player may pay any amount of mana. Each player searches his or her library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the total amount of mana paid this way. Puts them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffles his or her library. Again, it's not ramp. One nice thing about this card is that anyone can pay, not just you. So
yeah,
but it's still not ramp, because you don't get a mana advantage.
That's true. Okay, so this one is a little bit different. So it is part of the group hug thing. Tempted Discovery. It's 3 colors and a green. Sorcery. It has Tempting Offer. You search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield, and then each player may do the same. And if they do, you get to do it again. So I would say this is ramp because if someone else does it, you always will have more. So, yes, I would say this is ramp. Still kind of that group hug type thing, but a little bit different.
Pretty much you're only going to get 1 land, though, because people shouldn't give you
lands. If you didn't know, you always don't pick it in 4-player. So.
Veteran Explorer is a 1/1 for 1 with when it dies, each player may search their library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield. Then each player who searched their library this way shuffles it. I wouldn't say this is ramp because everyone gets it. One nice thing, though, is they enter untapped. So you could use them that turn, but I wouldn't say it's ramp.
Me neither. Same kind of thing. So is this another?
No. This is the next section.
So this is kind of the same kind of thing, group hug, but it's a little bit different. So this one is for each player can play additional lands. So, for example, this first one is Rites of Flourishing. It's 2 colors and a green for an enchantment. It says at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. And then it says each player may play an additional land on each of their turns. So if you have lands in your hand, you can play them. So each player may play an additional land. It's kind of like the group hug thing. Everyone can ramp, but it's just depending on if they can. Would you say this is ramp?
I'd say if your opponents don't have lands, it's ramp.
That's true.
So, I mean, kind of.
I would say it's not.
Yeah, I'd say most of the time it isn't going to be ramp.
Yeah. Next, same kind of thing.
Storm Cauldron. This one's a little different, though. This is a 5-mana artifact with each player may play an additional land during each of his or her turns. But it also says whenever a land is tapped for mana, return it to its owner's hand. So, well, if the other one wasn't ramp, this one definitely isn't ramp. Yeah. But this is kind of a cool stacks piece, I guess.
It's kind of an interesting stacks
I've never seen it before. Sounds fun. Not really. Hope no one ever plays it against me. But...
same kind of thing, play an additional land each turn. I wouldn't say it's ramp.
It's not ramp.
Giriper Orrery, similar thing. Each player, it's 4 colors for an artifact. Each player may play an additional land on each of their turns. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in their hand, they draw 3. So, same thing. It's each player may play an additional land on each of their turns. I would not say
it's not ramp.
No. So this is in the next section. This is going to be too expensive. So it is ramp. It's just so expensive that you shouldn't be ramping. Yeah.
So first and probably the biggest one is Reshape the Earth. 9 mana for search your library for up to 10 land cards, put them onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library.
So it is ramp. I would say all these are ramp. It's just they ramp so late.
You're ramping. What are you ramping to? We don't know.
It's good. All these are pretty good in landfall. Just because you don't want those triggers. But
hey, if you 10 lands can win you the game in a landfall deck.
That's a good point. Imagine Tatiova.
That's a lot of cards and a lot of life.
Next,
same thing.
Ulvenwald Hydra.
6 mana. I'll go. 6 mana for a star reach with its power and toughness are equal to the number of lands you control. And when it enters the battlefield, you search the library for a land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. This is even less ramp than Reshape the Earth, because Reshape the Earth got you 10 for 9. This gets you 1 for 6.
1 for 6. It is a body, a reach body with that you usually have.
You don't use this for ramping.
Right. You usually use this for and if you do use this for ramping, it's usually in decks that abuse the ETB, like
Landfall.
Blink and Bolo.
Or decks that want to have a very specific land for a land combo.
I would say out of all these, this is probably the least amount of ramp. This is the least ramp because it's just that's
for 1.
That's only on the card because of its ability to be able to make it that quick. So next is Boundless Realms, 6 colors and a green. It's a sorcery. Search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the amount of lands you control. Then put them on the battlefield tapped. So doubles your
land count.
Doubles your land count and 7 mana, which is hefty, and it doubles the amount of lands you control. So if you're assumingly gonna probably have 7, and you're gonna go to 14, most likely it's 7 for 7.
Yeah,
it's ramp.
It's ramp. Again, you're ramping too late in my opinion.
Yeah.
Perilous Forays. This is kind of the same idea. It's a 5 mana enchantment with 1 colorless, or it's a tap for a generic. To sack a creature, search the library for a land card with a basic land type, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. It's ramp. It's expensive, needing 6 total mana to ramp for 1. Plus you need to sacrifice a creature. I wouldn't count it as ramp. It's a good sacrifice outlet and can get you some good value. But
that's true.
It's not ramp.
Can get you also Triumphs and Shocklands.
Yeah.
So this is another one of these. Verdant Confluence. It's 4 colorless, 2 green for sorcery. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, or search your library for a basic land card, put on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So the idea is that it's 6 mana to get a land, I guess you can get 3. You can get 3 lands, up to 3 lands, but you're probably going to be picking some of the other ones as well.
Maybe getting stuff back from your graveyard.
Yeah. So I wouldn't call it ramp. Me neither. I wouldn't call it ramp either.
It's like the Hydra. It's like its point isn't the ramping part necessarily. It's kind of there as a bonus.
An added bonus, yeah.
Verdant Mastery.
Is this a new?
This is the same thing. It's an interesting one because it's 6 mana if you don't want to pay the student cost, and it says search library for up to 4 basic land cards and reveal them. Put one of them into battlefield tapped under an opponent's control, and then if you paid 4 for it instead, put 2 of them onto the battlefield under your control tapped, and then the rest into your hand. So,
no, the first part of that is if you paid 4.
Oh, okay. So yeah, if you get 4, put one of them into play under an opponent's control. If you paid 4, so if you pay 4 mana,
4, you get less. Right.
If you pay 4 mana, you get to search the library for 3 basic lands. One of them goes into play under your opponent's control. 2 go into play under your control, and then 1 goes into your hand. If you pay 6, 2 go into play under your control, and then 2 go into your hand. It's 6 mana. It's not very good ramp.
No, that's not. It's not very good. It is technically ramp, but it's not.
It also helps an opponent if you're paying 4 and you don't want to pay 6. So I mean, it's ramp, but you're too late to ramp.
It's not. Yeah, it's not really that. So okay, so next, this next category, is basically wait, where is this? Oh yeah, okay. So this next section is allowing more lands to be played per turn, only for you though. So this is different than the group hug one. It's just you. So we only have 2 in this category. There's a couple other ones though that I will mention. But first one is Exploration. It's 1 green enchantment. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. So you can. It's just you. So you just play. You can play turn 1, you can play this and then play an additional land.
Obviously, it's ramp.
Yeah. And then the second one is Azusa Lost But Seeking. It's 2 colors and a green. It's a 1/2 legendary creature human monk, and you may play 2 additional lands on each of your turns. So it's similar. You can play 2 additional lands instead of 1. And I would say this is also ramp. And there's a couple other ones that I'll just mention the name. Dryad of Losing Grove allows you to play an additional land. Oracle of Moldiah allows you to play an additional land. AAC and Journey of Discovery all allow you to play additional lands.
Yep. Okay. I guess we can move on to the next category then, which
is conditional on opponents is what I called it. So it's basically ramp depending on your opponents.
Yep. So the first one is Burgeoning, which says whenever an opponent plays a land, you may put a land from your hand on the battlefield. I'd say it's ramp because pretty much your opponents need to play lands.
So if you
win.
Yeah. The only thing that's really holding this card back is that if you have the lands in your hand.
Yeah. Archaeomancer's Map is a 3 mana with when it enters the battlefield, you survive for up to 2 basic planes, put them in your hand. Whenever a land ETBs under an opponent's control, if that player controls more lands than you, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. It's like Burgeoning. It's ramp, but it's ramp that can't get you ahead. So it's like, is it ramp? Yes. Is it like... I guess it depends on, is ramp getting ahead or is ramp getting ahead of where you were?
I would say that this is not ramp.
Not ramp?
Nope.
I'd say it can be ramp if you don't have anything else that's ramping you and you're behind anyway, but otherwise it probably won't be ramp most of the time. If you want it to do what it does best, it's not going to be ramping a whole lot.
So this next section is going to be playing additional lands, but it's on spells. So I only have one. I'm only going to say one here, but I'll mention some other ones too. So the one I'm going to say is Summer Bloom. It's 1 colorless and 1 green for sorcery, and it says you may play up to 3 additional lands this turn. So if you have those lands in your hand, you can play them. Otherwise, you're not. Otherwise, you're not ramping. I would say that this is ramp.
This is ramp. It's just really hard for ramp to work.
There's some other ones that do some additional stuff too. All 3 of these draw you cards as well. So Explore, Growth Spiral, Eureka Moment, and Urban Evolution all allow you to draw cards and allow you to play additional lands. So I would say all those are ramp as well, because usually you might draw into a land or you might have lands in your hand. So I would say all those are ramp.
Okay, so we can move on to the next category, which is the last one, which is kind of just miscellaneous cards that either have higher requirements for you to do the ramp or
doesn't really fit in anything else, basically.
Yeah. So first one we have is Sword of Hearth and Home, which is an equipment which gives a creature +2/+2 and protection from green and from white. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile up to 1 target creature you own, then search the library for a basic land card, put both onto the battlefield under your control, then shuffle.
So
you need to deal combat damage,
and equip.
So you're paying 5 mana at least, and you need to deal combat damage. So I wouldn't really call it ramp.
The main part of this card is the fact that it gives protection from green and white, and that it blinks a permanent.
I mean, the land is useful. I wouldn't really call it ramp.
No, I wouldn't call it ramp as well.
Okay, Sword of the Animist. Similar, it's a 2 mana equipment with equipped creature gets +1/+1, and whenever equipped creature attacks, you may search the library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, and then shuffle. I'd say this is ramped because it's 2 less. It's 1 less to cast, so it's 4 total versus 5 total. Plus the creature just needs to attack, not deal combat damage.
Yeah, not deal combat damage.
Not saying it's necessarily a better card, but I would say it's
Does
ramp.
it put it on the battlefield tapped?
The other one put it in the battlefield untapped.
Tapped. So that's the thing to think about, but then it's still ramp though. I would say this is ramp and the other one isn't really that much. So the next one is Celebrate the Harvest. It's 3 colors and a green. Sorcery. Search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the number of different power zone creatures you control. Put those cards onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So you have to have big creatures to get.
Not necessarily big creature. You just need lots of creatures, and I'd say it's not ramp because by the time you have a lot of creatures out,
you don't really need ramp.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and otherwise, if you have a lot of creatures out, usually they're like tokens that all have the same power.
That's true.
So, I'd say that.
Oh, it's different powers. I didn't see that. Yeah.
Yeah, not total power. So,
that's a good point.
It's too. Yeah. It's by the time it does anything, it's like the too expensive category. It's just a little too slow.
That's true. I agree.
Caravan Vigil. It's a 1 mana with search library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library, and Morbid, you may put that card on the battlefield if a creature died this turn.
Okay, so a creature needs to die for you to actually ramp.
Yeah. I'd say it's not ramp because by the time a creature is going to consistently die, I don't know, it's a sorcery, So it has to die on your
That's
turn.
true, I didn't
so
think
you
about
have
that
to
either.
kill it.
It's
So
a
unless,
sorcery,
so I mean,
it's not
some
instant.
decks it maybe could be ramp, but I wouldn't say it's ramp.
I agree. So Wild Endeavor, it's 4 colorless and 2 green for a sorcery. It says roll 2 d4s and choose one result. Create a number of 3/3 green beast creature tokens equal to that result. Then search your library for a number of basic land cards equal to the other result. Put them on the battlefield tab and then shuffle. So you need to roll a good number.
I'd say it's not ramp because I can't roll dice.
It's 6 mana too.
Luckily, yeah, it could have went the too expensive category.
That is true, actually.
Okay, so next 2 cards are kind of similar. We have From Beyond, 4 mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token onto the battlefield. It has sacrifice this creature, add 1 to your mana pool. And it has colorless tap, sack it, search your library for an Eldrazi card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. And then we have Awakening Zone, which is at the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token. It has sacrifice this creature, add colorless. So these cards do the same thing pretty much in that they make a creature that you can sacrifice. Yeah.
Interesting thing to note though is that these are spawns and these are scions, and I know there's some cards that deal with scions.
Are they ramp? I'd say no.
Me neither.
I'm not saying they're bad cards. I wouldn't call it ramp.
No, none of these are.
Bad
We're not
cards.
saying these are
Bad cards.
If they're not ramp, we're not saying that they're bad. We're just saying that they're not ramp.
I mean, I like Awakening Zone and From Beyond. I just wouldn't ever put them in a slot saying they are my ramp card.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So, Colony Heart Expedition. I love this card. 1 colorless and 1 green for an enchantment, and as landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a quest counter on it. Then you can remove 3 quest counters and and then sacrifice it, and search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. So you need to kind of like meet that requirement for playing lands to get more lands. I wouldn't say this is ramp, just because you need to play lands to get more lands, and I feel like that's not really what ramping is trying to do. I mean, it is pretty good ramp. Yeah. Especially for like landfall decks.
It's just like you're paying 2, plus you need to have 3 lands enter the battlefield. Best case scenario, this is like turn 4 that this can happen.
Yeah.
So like, no, I wouldn't call this ramp. I'd say it's
really
good landfall.
It's really good landfall, yeah.
But it's not an amazing ramp card. So Ranging Raptors. This is a 2/3 for 3 green. It has Enrage. Whenever it's dealt damage, you may search library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. I'd say this isn't ramp because
it needs to be dealt damage.
It needs to be dealt damage, and it's a 2/3. So what are people just gonna? People aren't gonna block it if they don't want you to have lands. Like, oh boy, you can have 2 lands.
It's 2 damage. In Commander, it's
negligible. And if your deck can deal damage to itself, I mean, you kind of need to get rolling for you to do that, and it can generate value. It's not a ramp card. Last card.
Last but not least is Death Sprout, and it's 1 colorless, 2 black, and a green. It's instant. Destroy a target creature, and then search your library for a basic land card, put in the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. So instead of the ones that make you, you have to destroy your own stuff to get a land, you just destroy anybody's stuff, and then you get a land. This is not, I would say it's ramp, but it's not primarily ramp, obviously. It's primarily the kill spell. But
it's ramp because it's 4 mana, and it ramps you, and you don't have to pay any cost or anything for that.
Exactly. So I would say that is ramp. But obviously, you're not going to play this as a ramp card. You're going to play it to destroy a creature.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's all the ramp cards that we have. This was a little bit of a shorter video, and that's mostly due to we just didn't want this kind of video. This was
supposed to be a short video.
This is supposed to be a short video. It's not supposed to be really a video that's supposed to be long.
Would you say that most of these cards ramped?
I would say most of them did.
They did.
They did, in fact, ramp.
Okay.
Does it do?
It did.
It did. All right, so that's all we have today for this video. If you enjoyed it, or I guess I should say, if you disagreed with us, let us know.
You have any other jank random ramp cards?
Is there other? I'm sure we missed a lot. There's a lot of ramp cards in the game.
There's a lot of cards.
There's a lot of cards. So I'm sure we missed one. So if you have one that you think we missed and we should have had, just let us know, I guess. Make sure to share the video and share our channel and make sure everyone sees it. So,
as always, have a great day.
Always have a great day.